Welcome to History 1301, U.S. History pre-Columbus to the Civil War. My name is Andrea Crossan, and I will be your instructor this semester. Part of our course will involve a discussion board that will contain a series of short videos. Basically, with each topic, I will provide this series of short videos for you to watch that will provide additional background information that will complement your textbook. As you can see on our screen here, there are 4 slides contained in this lecture. I will include in this video the information I want to explain from that first slide. When we move to the second slide, the video will stop. Simply click on the next video to continue the lecture. This should also provide you with the ability to refer to your textbook, catch up with your notes, or perhaps jot down a question or an opinion to contribute to the discussion thread later. Consider it another perk of having an online course. You get a break every 10 to 20 minutes. Now let's get started. Today we are beginning our course on U.S. history from Columbus basically to the Civil War. But we need to go back further. Who did Columbus find when he arrived? What groups existed on these continents prior to their discovery by Europe? Who were they, and where did they come from? These are the questions we will address in this lecture on that first slide. The 3 additional slides will cover North America, and you can see I basically have it located in North America, Mesoamerica, which is further to the south here, and then South America. And we will discuss these areas as distinct regions with diverse and complex societies. Your book does an excellent job covering the Great Plains, the woodlands, along with a host of cultural issues. And I'm going to let your book cover those areas and those groups. I have a couple of points that I want to make. So be sure to read your book carefully and feel free to ask any questions that you may have or post the issue to the discussion board so that we as a class can discuss it. Now, we're going to start at the beginning. How did people migrate to the Americas? Well, as your book explains, there are 2 distinct groups of scholars that attempt to answer that question. One of those groups is obviously historians. We attempt to answer that question. The problem that we have, though, as historians, is the fact that we study written documents. We also use artifacts and some physical remains, but for the most part, we study recorded history. And that becomes a challenge when you are discussing the history of the Americas, because there are many groups that simply didn't utilize writing. So we really do rely on the group of scholars that we know as anthropologists. Anthropologists would be that second group of scholars that attempt to answer this question. Who are Native Americans? Where did they migrate from? Anthropologists use human remains, physical artifacts, ruins, to study and apply scientific data to back up theories that they create to answer many of these questions. So they develop theories backed by scientific data, and we owe these scholars a great deal of gratitude for their work. So we're going to start this lecture basically over here with the first slide in Alaska, because we believe, for the most part, that that was the point of entry. So we're talking about migration now into the Americas. And like I said, we have a variety of theories to explain this. Now, prior to the use of scientific data to back up a theory, some of the more widely accepted theories included that perhaps Native Americans were one of the lost tribes of Israel. That was one theory. There was another theory that perhaps Native Americans were from the Phoenicians, or were part of the Phoenicians from going way back in time to Mesopotamia. But one of the most widely accepted theories today is known as Beringia. That would be that second term there on the slide, Beringia. And that refers to a land bridge that would have been exposed during the last ice age. Using scientific data to calculate how low the oceans would have dropped during the last ice age, scientists have created this depiction of about how large that land bridge would have been. So the general idea is that during the last ice age, so much of the Earth's oceans was caught up in ice because of the cold climate that the water levels dropped. And it exposed this piece of land that would have connected northern Asia to Alaska. It would have provided a path for animals and humans to cross back and forth and enter into the Americas. Now, that is what we believe happened. We believe that large animals perhaps migrated from Asia and entered into the Americas, and the people that hunted those animals then followed suit. Now, your book describes these groups as Paleo-Indians. These were hunter-gatherer groups that migrated probably in small numbers. I do agree with your textbook in that regard. Hunting and gathering as a lifestyle does not support a large population. And so these groups, these bands of hunter-gatherers, crossed this land bridge and entered into the Americas. And your book does a very good job sort of talking about different paths that ancient people would have taken and what they would have found in the Americas. You know, as their populations grew, as they found greater food supplies in different parts of the Americas. And that is one thing that we do know, that when you do have an increase in food supply, you see an increase in population. So that's maybe a very basic equation we have as historians. More food equals more people. So people were utilizing this land bridge. Now another piece of scientific data that would support Beringia comes to us in the form of DNA analysis. Basically, DNA analysis has been done on old remains in parts of Alaska and old remains in parts of Siberia. And they found a genetic match. So that DNA analysis provides us with scientific data to support the theory of Beringia, and it's very strong evidence. Now, at the end of the last ice age, the ice, of course, melted, and therefore the levels of the Earth's oceans then rose, and that land bridge was no longer exposed. And you have a group of people now living in the Americas. And they migrate around. And some of them migrate and stay within North America.